I guess it's going to be a waste of time if I ask you, should I believe China? So my question is, what does China need to do for you and others to believe what China says?
Well, of course, first of all, they should drop this national security law, which the rubber stamp parliament in Beijing is definitely going to pass on Thursday. If they would just cool it, stop it, and talk to the Hong Kong people, talk to the political parties, the legislators, see what's needed, what should be done, what are the concerns of not just the political parties, but the business community. I heard some business people are saying they are rethinking their plans in Hong Kong. And I think one thing is, the extradition bill, which sparked off this year-long protest last year, is not just the concern of the political activists, many of whom cannot go to mainland China anyway, but it's the concern of the business community and the professionals, because they have so many dealings with the mainland. So do you not think that now with this national security law on secession, on terrorism, on subversion, on liaison and interference with foreign forces, do you not think the companies, the professionals, they are worried? Of course they are. So I think China, and I hope the international community will tell Beijing to really calm down and stop bulldozing this thing through. Chris Patten, the last governor, suggested that the G7, the group of 7 most rich and powerful countries, which will be meeting next week, should put Hong Kong on the agenda and discuss it. So I hope the international community will speak out. But I don't support sanctions for Hong Kong because, in the words of some business people, that means the game is over. So why punish the 7-odd million people? And I don't think that is the way forward.
So to clarify then, your issue is not so much the proposed bill itself, but how it's being introduced.
Well, both. I think we're talking about both. The fact is, if they understand the way they're doing it is very wrong, then they should stop it. And then they should have a discussion with the community and see why there are such violent reactions, why the people are so fearful and so angry. The thing to do is to engage the people, not to just beat them on the head and then try to crush them, because that is the feeling that we've got in Hong Kong now, that there are thousands of police officers roaming the streets, trying to, beat people up, to arrest them. And it is a terrible, terrible feeling, just like we are living in a police state.
Emily, does it feel like Beijing has now lost its temper or lost its patience with the progress Hong Kong is making, and it's very much willing to trade in, or at least put at risk, its position as a global financial hub in order to maintain or consolidate complete control?
Yes, I think you may be right, and quite a number of people have said Beijing has lost its patience because Hong Kong was handed by Britain to China in 1997. So now it's 23 years. And how come we still have not implemented this national security law, which the basic law of Hong Kong said we should do it on our own? But for 20-odd years, we failed to do it. And then Beijing saw all these violent confrontations in the streets in the last year. And they are angry, which I can understand. But they must ask, why? Why is it such a peaceful, such a safe city could suddenly blow up like that? And the trigger, of course, was the extradition bill, which Carrie Lam, the chief executive, proposed. And then months later, she withdrew it. But by then, the damage has been done. And the police was encouraged, and not just by Hong Kong, but by mainland authorities, to go out and beat Hong Kong people up. And so far, over 8,000 people have been arrested, but not one single police officer has been arrested for assaulting people. So you see, this is a problem. So if Beijing is losing its patience, it should ask why. How come for 20 years nothing happened? It's only when Xi Jinping became the president of the PRC and adopted such a hardline policy, not just on the people of mainland China, but also on Hong Kong, that made Hong Kong so angry and so frightened.
So there's no trust on either side, Emily, that much is clear. What can Hong Kong or what can your side potentially do to communicate with Beijing if you want to try and get a message across that what protesters are going for is not complete independence, which is what Beijing is most scared of?
Yeah, of course, you're right. Most Hong Kong people are not going for independence. They are not going for the overthrow of the Chinese Communist Party. And how can I get my message across? Well, I do it through you, my dear. I'm sure they're listening to your program. I speak as someone who cannot go to mainland China. I have been banned for 20-odd years. But through the news media, particularly powerful voices in the news media, when you speak to me, I speak to you, and I hope they listen. I hope they can hear it. Whether they will listen or not is up to them. But I agree with you. We should have dialogue, engagement, and not, using brute force. And I tell you, although we are just a city of 7 million people, but we are not going to roll over and play dead.
So, Emily, David here again.
Yes.
Objectively, though, just looking at what's being proposed, would you agree that Hong Kong needs a national security law? So I'm just trying to parse whether or not the issue is the purpose of the bill, what it's trying to address, or the party that's actually suggesting it.
Well, I guess it's everything, David. But, okay, well, it's in the basic law that we should legislate for a national security law, and people are not completely against that. It's how you do it and what is the content. In 2003, the legal profession in Hong Kong suggested, and they accept that there is a need. They suggested maybe there should be a white paper, a consultative document that should be published to get together views and then try to come up with, make compromises, come up with a consensus. Then we can move forward. And that's a very civilized way of doing it. But nobody bothered to listen to that. And now they're coming out and say, oh, well, you didn't do it. So now we do it for you. We do it in a few days' time. Bang, done. I mean, is that the way to behave in a civilized world?
Well, in an ideal world, no, but there are lots of imperfections in the world today, which is why I guess we're having this conversation, and which is why I guess we had the scenes that we had over the weekend in places like Causeway Bay, Emily. Do you expect the unrest to continue in Hong Kong? Or do you expect it to be worse than last year?
Well, anything is possible, David. Actually, it's coming on Wednesday. On Wednesday, the Legislative Council is going to have to pass the bill on national anthem, because they say this law says that they will punish you if you insult the national anthem. So many people are very upset, and now there are calls for people to go to the Legislative Council complex, to surround it, to not allow people to enter, and now, the police are very heavily deployed there, and some roads next to the complex are already closed. And in the news today, it says the police are going to deploy 3,500 police officers in the vicinity. So, the scene is set. And coincidentally, what's going to happen on Wednesday? The schools, the secondary schools, the higher secondary school classes will reopen. And some of the kids, the students are saying they are going to go on strike, and some may even join the protest. So, what do you think? I think this is terrible. And Hong Kong is again going to degenerate into such violent clashes on this coming Wednesday.
So what next, Emily? What next for the pro-democracy movement? What's the way forward?
Well, I mean, my party, we don't support violence. We never supported violence. But, of course, we will fight with dignity, and we will work with our people. But those who want to, and who do support violence, who resort to violence, well, they're taking it in their own hands. They have to take responsibility for their actions. But we just hope that the police would not go around using water cannon and tear gas and all that on the people and beating them up so much and arresting so many again. Because very soon our prisons will be filled up completely. So it is a very sad state of affairs. And there are many people from Australia, from America, from Europe living in Hong Kong. We have hundreds of thousands of foreigners living and working here. And I hope the international community will come up and tell Beijing, tell the Carrie Lam administration to calm down and not to bulldoze things over the people. The people, by and large, are not violent. They want a dialogue. They want to talk. They want the government to come out and give some concessions, and which is something we cannot get. And that's why we keep seeing these scenes of very violent clashes, and it makes our blood boil.